It's Graham Coxon and Coffee and TV. There is a reason for us playing that oldie but goodie, which we'll get to in a minute. But here he is, down the line from LA. From LA. Listen to this. Graham Coxon, all right, mate?
Hello, yes. Thank you for saying Coffee and TV by Graham Coxon. Yeah,
hello.
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you.
What is this? I mean, I've only barely got my head around the fact that Alex Turner moved to LA, but I never saw you as a Los Angeles type of man.
I'm really not.
No.
I'm covered in hives. I'm freaked out. I'm having anxiety attacks at the side of the road. I'm eating pizza. I'm eating good food. I'm happy. I've got a suntan. All of these things mixed into one. It's really weird.
Yeah, this is something. This took me by. I saw your old mucker Dave Rowntree the other day.
Yeah.
And he said he'd popped over to see you in America. And he claimed that you had a bit of a tan.
Well, I do occasionally get that. I have the sort of skin that eventually gets round to having a tan.
Because I thought you were reliably, like myself, you know, would retain that sort of one indie pallor forever.
Well, yeah, I mean, actually, a lot of people in LA don't go out in the sun.
Right.
It's only the Mad Dogs and Englishmen, of course, that do so. But I was doing a lot of cycling up and down the beach last summer, so I got actually burnt to a crisp.
So let's get this right. How long have you been out there now then, and how long does it take to sort of settle in?
Well, I came out here early, just basically a year.
Right.
But I lived on the beach sort of side of things, on the west side for most of the months, and just moved over to the northern east side in December last year.
Right.
And I think, I think you just find where is reasonably North Londonish. If you're from North London, I do miss the damp old ancient smell of the woods and mossy walls and rose gardens and things like that. But there are places you can go to experience similar.
It's strange, actually, because I think I'm allowed to say this, but Dave Rowntree is making a radio documentary about Camden, which is why I saw him the other day, your old stomping ground, because Camden is the scene for the Six Music Festival this year.
Right.
And it was quite a nostalgic journey. We must have spent about half an hour talking about the good mixer, I think.
Well, I mean, I know quite a lot about the Good Mixer. I think for a number of years I was there every day, and around Camden Centre. I lived only a few minutes walk from there for 18 years. Yeah.
I seem to remember the day where, and I presume this happened on more than one occasion, but there was a day when we were both in there, and the landlord came round and dumped a load of post on the table, which had been addressed to Graham Coxon, care of the Good Mixer, England.
Oh, that's true. Yeah. I remember that. That was one of the... was that with Andy?
Yeah, might have been.
Probably one of the Putting the World to Rights sessions.
Yes, with Andy Ross on the label. I mean, so it's a long way away from where you are now, I imagine. But, I mean, I don't know, are there people around? You must obviously make friends, I guess. I don't know if there's a sort of expat community where you are, or whether there are other people in music that you've sort of fallen in with.
Oh, well, a lot of parents, really. I hang out with fellow parents.
Right.
I see a few musicians. The other day I was doing Danny Harrison's Whammy night, which is the Grammy alternative party where he gets a load of people in to play tons of songs, and so, hanging out with the wonderful Jason Faulkner and Beck and Elliot Easton from the Cars and all these lovely people.
Yeah.
So there's a few excellent musicy people who are very happy that I'm knocking around and up for a hang.
Yeah.
If you really want to do that, or you can, as I mostly do with what I'm doing for work, I guess, for the last couple of years. I've been at home mostly in a little room recording.
Yeah, well, this is, sat around writing music, for TV shows and the like. I mean, does it, in LA, does it feel like, I'm kind of living the dream?
I don't think the dream exists anywhere, I don't know whether I really liked the dream in the first place.
Right.
I think I had a little taste of it. But it was a bit confusing,
Yeah.
It was a little bit too conflicting a thing for my brain. I feel kind of good when I can sit and make music, but really I don't think any human being like me, or any creative human being, will ever feel exactly at home, exactly comfortable, exactly happy wherever they are. You know, and that's why they retreat into their inner kingdom to create. Well, that's what I think. I mean, you know, I've always had to retreat to my inner kingdom, whether that was through movies, clothes, music, whatever it is, or silly accents.
Yeah,
yeah, the whole thing. You know, it was just how I was, a retreative sort.
And is it? I think I might have read this somewhere. Is it more discipline, more like a 9 to 5 job, a bit more Albarn, as we say back in Blighty, where, you know, you treat it like we get up and I start writing?
Well, yeah. I mean, I always thought, flipping out, you know, Damon just works too hard.
Yeah.
But actually, if you do commit yourself to that, you have no choice but to school, run, bath, work, and at 9 o'clock you're working, and you work until what you're doing is done, and whether that's at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock or 4 o'clock. But you put the hours in, and you come up with stuff that every day that wasn't there when the day was beginning. So I really loved the process, and I got really into it, and I totally understand why Damon and people do it, because it's exercising a muscle, definitely is.
Yeah. And I mean, how did it all come about, the you know, the TV soundtrack work? Did somebody just phone up or drop you a line and say, look, we're doing this thing and we think you would do an excellent job of bringing it to life with some music?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
Basically, Matt Biffer, who is a music supervisor, and then Jonathan Entwistle, those two colluded, and they said, why don't we get Coxie in? And they phoned me up, and I said, absolutely. And I'm really glad they did, because before then I hadn't done an awful lot for any films. I've done one track for the Riot Club, that movie.
Yeah.
You know, so I hadn't really got any gear. You know, I hadn't got much stuff. But over the years, of course, I've collected more and more. But really, I did it with an interface, a computer, you know, one microphone, an acoustic guitar, and an electric guitar, and using, you know, a DAW. I mean, and you can achieve an awful, and a mini sort of, you know, keyboard thing that plugs in your computer, and you can achieve an awful lot with just those things. But of course, you know, you get slightly obsessed, and then you get preamps, and then you get you know, and there's all sorts of other juicy boxes with lights and knobs on and things like that, which are all very, very seductive. So you end up with loads of crazy stuff.
So how does it work? Say, you know, end of the flipping world. Do you see a script? Do you see clips? Do they give you a brief and say, we would like this sort of thing? How does it work? Yeah,
it works in a lot of ways. It works exactly like that. I mean, on the second series, I had the script up front, and I started writing to get ahead of the game, sort of thing. You know, so I wrote She Knows, actually, before I'd seen any of the action. I wrote it purely on scripts. They may bring up another film, you know, that's very famous, that has a very famous soundtrack, and you're like, well, I'll try and do something a bit like that. But they say, yeah, but make it a bit more Essexy. And you go, okay, I'll try and make it a bit more Essexy.
What would that entail? How do you make something more Essex? I'm intrigued.
I would joke about, on the first series, that I was doing some slide guitar, and it was Paris Essex. And because I was, you know, there's a lot of
Paris Chelmsford.
Yeah, you know that place.
Yeah,
you know, and there's a sort of an old burger joint there, and you do sometimes see people in pickups, and they've got cowboy boots on and a cowboy hat sometimes, and people are living their own kind of little America in the sticks.
Yeah.
So I don't know really what makes it less American and more Essex. Maybe it's just the visuals.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just the fact that you're watching something, and but it's the same sort of thing. Like with episode 2, I did all the writing and recording for that in the shed in Santa Monica, and it ended up having kind of a Spanishy thing going on at points, you know, and or a kind of an American country blues thing going on, and so it's odd. It does rub off slightly on you.
There will be people who haven't seen, say, End of the Flipping World, and so I know. So don't spoil the plot. Obviously, it's quite dark. It's funny, but dark. What struck me though was when you were offered the gig and they said it's this. What did you make of it when it was explained to you? When it was sold to you, did you think, well, that sounds odd, or that sounds great, or yes, that is exactly the sort of thing that I should be doing?
It was lucky in the first series that they had some rough episodes on the go, and so I watched episode 1, and I thought, this is good. It's kind of funny and kind of weird, but I had this little song called "Angry Me." And which I just wrote one late morning, just for that little bit at the beginning in the kind of canteen at the school.
Yeah.
And that kind of got me because it was sort of it had a sort of a slackery, Becky sort of type thing, but it also had a sort of snotty English sort of thing to it. I always kind of, if I'm approaching things in a kind of a punk rock way or a kind of a sneering humour way, I go a little bit lurkers. So it's a kind of Beck stroke with the lurkers, with acoustic guitars.
That could not be better for the boy Lamacq. The Beck lurkers crossover is what I've been searching for all these years.
It's there.
Yeah,
but it's part of culturally about who I am and where I'm from. Weirdly, wit comes in, humour comes in when the going's getting a little bit emotional.
Was it easy when you came to write for the second series? Was it in any way easier because you understood the characters, because we'd lived with the characters for a series and you'd obviously experienced writing through the first series? Did that make the second series easier, or did you find yourself having to raise the bar?
I mean, for a while I was like, oh my God, I've got to do another Walking All Day song and that people are going to like and things like that. But I actually just put that aside. I mean, they've been through the mangle, the characters.
Yeah.
And Alyssa is emotionally drained, let's say.
Yeah.
And you really see it. And she's absolutely, knackered. And then there is this kind of new character who's obviously having her own issues, so it starts off in a lot murkier, and so I guess I was doing a lot of murkier music, and so when She Knows came about, that was the song that kind of got me centered or on beam with what the rest of that series was going to be, and I think Lucy Forbes was playing that song whilst they were filming.
Oh, really?
Just to get them in,
right,
in sort of in the mood, which is nice.
All right, well, let's hear a bit of that, shall we? It is Graham Coxon, and this is She Knows.
There a right thing for us to do? She got to you. You're a thing. She knows, just tread lightly on the ground. She's all around, don't make a sound. She knows, she hears your heartbeat, feels you breathe, smells the fear, always near. She
It's Graham Coxon's She Knows from the End of the Flipping World 2 soundtrack. So two series of that so far. There's a Netflix, there's another one coming. I'm Not Okay With This.
Yeah.
So tell us about this, because this sounds like a dream team, isn't it? The directors of End of the Flipping World and producers of Stranger Things, something like that.
That's right.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, and that's based around another Charles Forceman comic book, a little like End of the Flipping World was.
Yeah.
Called I'm Not Okay With This. And there's some incredible characters in that. For me, a similar job, you know, backing up the scenes with appropriate music. But there's extra. There's extra in this one, which I'm a little more excited about. And I can't really, I'm not sure I can say an awful lot about, but
because I think that's
it's really great. It's really, really great.
I think it's any day now, any day soon. I
think it's February 26th, isn't it? It's coming out.
Yeah.
Watch out. It's a really, really good.
We were having this conversation earlier on. Strangely, that there is something of, you know, if it was a comic book, you would be sort of almost like, you know, they obviously there's a script writer, and then somebody comes along and sort of pencils in a sort of draft, and then they have somebody who inks it in and provides the detail and the colour, and that's sort of, in a sense, what some of your songs do on these series.
Well, that's kind of like the job. I mean, it's odd when I actually write songs, because the songs haven't got to have, you know, lyrically they don't want to get in the way of what's going on the screen and what people are saying, and if you leave the lyrics vague enough, you can hit more people with it because they interpret it themselves. And in the same way, I suppose, I would see sort of like James and Alyssa, you know, like that as kind of like the songwriters or the singers in a way, and I'm sort of trying to channel what they're feeling,
that's it,
or interpret what I think they're getting at, and put it into the music. Yeah,
they're the dysfunctional singer in the band, and you're trying to give them something to pour their grief over.
Nothing changes. It's the same. Singers, you know.
What else? I don't know if you can say, but what else are you working on? What have you got in the pipeline to keep you busy, to keep you out of the sun?
I've been mucking around with my chums from the Jaded Hearts Club band.
Right.
That's Matt Bellamy and my friend Jamie and Sean, and and Nick and all those guys. There's a live album out from the 100 Club. There may be more coming soon. We may even thrash around on a couple of stages shortly, and then another project of my own, a personal project of mine I've been working on for about 3 years. Hopefully, I'm getting concepts and for all that. That's all finished, and I'm just sort of trying to line my life up over the next year or two.
Yeah.
And also, I have been I was doing a lot of work with Duran Duran last year.
I didn't know that.
Didn't you?
No, Graham Coxon lives in LA and hangs out with Duran Duran. There's a line. There's a line I never thought I'd say when we were at the Sir George Robey.
Whatever dream it is, it has some peculiar twists and turns. Yeah.
What were you doing with Duran Duran?
Well, I did a sort of a panel thing about David Bowie. It was for a particular speaker company, and upon that panel was Nick Rhodes. We got on pretty well. We had a bit of a giggle, and he said, "Do you know what? It might be fun if you come and, you know, Duran will be in the studio soon. It might be fun if you come along and, you know, hang out, maybe play a bit of guitar." And I thought, flipping out, you know what? That might be you might be right. That might be fun. And it was, and we did quite a lot of that last year, and it went rather nicely, and I think I'm allowed to talk about it. I mean, it's no secret.
Something else I read somewhere was you made reference to an album that you wrote, which didn't come out in 2012, which at the time has been tentatively titled Castle Park. What happened to that? Whatever happened to Castle Park, which for non-Essex boys and girls is the big park in Colchester, by the way. Castle Park, right. What happened to that?
Well, it's still sitting there, and I would like to get it out and about at some point. It just hasn't had the opportunity to get out there and be able to breathe. You know, right. I would have had to wedge it in a little bit too much between other stuff. But But it's there, and I made that at the same time as A&E.
Yeah.
And it was just that session just went into two different types of sounding sonically weird, different piles, and one pile was Castle Park, and I've played some stuff live from it. But yeah, I mean, I'd like to get that out at some point.
I don't mind.
There's loads. There's tons.
I'll start the old label up again. That's what we'll do. We play Coffee and TV at the top of this. The reason being that there was a tweet the other day from you which read, and I thought this was one of the greatest comments I've seen on Twitter recently. I wish I could have had a coffee just before I woke up. The idea of that,
just have someone somehow get it into your system just before you wake up.
I've had no need to get out of bed, although now I do feel like getting out of bed. I've had a coffee. What have you got on for the rest of the day? But because we are very grateful for you to spare some time with us. Working today, what have you got on?
I shall zoom back out to where I live, and I shall geek out. So, there's so many things available for guitar players and things like that now, pedals and all. And every now and then I just have to catch up with what's going on and just stick my headphones on and blast my head to bits with guitars and pedals and this and that and,
Oh, wait. I mean, as much as you say, it still sounds like living the dream to me.
It's all right, yeah.
Yeah. It's been lovely talking to you. Thank you so much, Graham.
Too, Steve.
And this is something from End of the Flipping World. This is Beautiful Bad.